Hey guys, it's Calvin with Improver, and in this video, we're going to talk about the ultimate continuous improvement process. With so many great options to choose from in terms of Lean and Six Sigma and TQM and TPM and TOC, where do you start? The purpose of your CI process is to help you decide what is the next best action to take in order to get where you're going. So stick around for the end and you'll learn what is the ultimate continuous improvement process and what's going to work best for you. In this video, we'll cover what is a CI process, what are some traditional approaches, what are the three categories of CI processes. We'll cover some of the more modern approaches, and that should lead us down the trail of defining the ultimate continuous improvement process. So what is a continuous improvement process? It is a common method or framework that an organization uses to systematically improve performance. When we say systematic, we really mean that we're going to apply science to the art of management. You've probably heard of PDCA or Plan, Do, Check, Act or Plan, Do, Check, Adjust. You've probably heard of DMAIC, Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, or Control. And there are so many more out there, but the purpose of all these processes is to systematically get to what's the next best thing to do for the business in order to help it get closer to achieving its long-term goals. A few characteristics of a good continuous improvement process is that it's user-friendly, it's reliable, and it's flexible. Let's go ahead and unpack those right here, right now. A user-friendly CI process is one that is easy to teach and easy to learn. If it's difficult to teach, it's probably also difficult to learn, in which case makes the CI process probably not going to sustain over the long run. It'd be best to simplify it down to something that can be learned and applied in a matter of weeks, if not days. Number two, reliable. A reliable continuous improvement process produces consistently positive results. Out of 100 times of using the process, 99 of those times it either A, produced incredible results, or B, dramatically increased your learning and put you in position to produce outstanding results in the future. And number three, a good CI process is going to be flexible, meaning it can be successfully and effectively applied across a broad range of applications. If your CI process only works in a very unique, specific situation, then it's not going to be practiced enough in order to develop any level of mastery, and the chances that it will sustain in the long run are greatly reduced. What are some traditional methodologies to continuous improvement? Well, turns out there are tons of great options. And as we'll discuss toward the end of the video, there are new approaches being created all the time. But hopefully by the end of this, you'll start to see a common thread that underlies every approach to continuous improvement. So for now, we're just going to cover some of the bigger ones that you probably heard of and perhaps bring some clarity so that you know a little more about what these are all about. So the big four we're going to cover in this video are Lean, Six Sigma, TQM and ISO, and theory of constraints. Let's dive into those now. When we talk about Lean, we're talking about systematically eliminating waste while simultaneously maximizing value to the customer. Lean is based on the management practices at the Toyota company. Toyota was at one point called the greatest manufacturer in the world. I think many still regard Toyota in that way. But the term Lean was actually coined in 1991 by James Womack in his book, The Machine That Changed the World. If you haven't had a chance to read that, highly encourage you to add that to your summer reading list. When we talk Six Sigma, we're talking about reducing product or process defects to within 3.4 per 1 million outputs. That is really high quality. This concept works a little better in high-speed manufacturing where you can get to 1 million outputs in a very short period of time. But Six Sigma has been applied across many industries and produced phenomenal results, most namely GE, General Electric, and Motorola. When we talk TQM and ISO, these are both things that were very popular in the 1980s. TQM is Total Quality Management, and ISO is the International Organization of Standardization, which is a little bit of a paradox because it's called ISO, but the name of the organization would technically be IOS. Anyway, these methods, especially ISO, provide a set of standards that help you develop and run a highly effective and highly efficient quality management system. When we talk theory of constraints, we're talking about maximizing business throughput by identifying, eliminating, and optimizing around the bottlenecks that exist in your end-to-end business. And when we talk business throughput here, we're referring to not only production, how many units can you make or how many clients you can serve. We're also talking about sales, right? So if you got high production but low sales, you're going to have inventory building up. In the case of theory of constraints, we're looking to optimize total business throughput from end to end. This method was developed and made popular by Eliyahu Goldratt's book, The Goal, which if you haven't read that, it's a fantastic book. I highly encourage you to add that to your summer reading list as well. In fact, there's also a part 2 that's a little less famous, that's also a great read. So those are 4 of the more common CI methodologies. Again, there are many more and more being created all the time. But what you'll find is that virtually all CI methodologies fall into 3 distinct categories, which we'll cover off in this next section. And those are project-based, compliance-based, and iterative. Let's dive into those now. Project-based continuous improvement is essentially aggregating a list of a whole bunch of changes you're going to make all at once or in the shortest time frame possible. This is almost a shotgun approach to fixing everything that you can find in your system and then seeing what the outcome is after all that work is done. Some of the pros of this is that you can see some big leaps forward in productivity. You can see a real spike in performance in a relatively short period of time. Some of the cons to this approach is that it can be expensive. It can tie up a lot of money. It can tie up a lot of time. It can tie up a lot of resources in order to get the project to the finish line. And you don't get feedback from the customer, the end user, the process, the market until all of the work is done. The second thing is that it's non-scientific. After you finish all that work and you see a spike in performance or you see an output, you don't really know which change affected the output or by how much. So very little real learning is achieved by using project-based continuous improvement. Most likely you're going to come out of it with the exact same assumptions you had when you went in. It's also harder to sustain. While you may have made a big leap forward in terms of results and performance of the process in the short run, the long-term results of that process are going to fall back to the behaviors and habits of the people who govern that process. In other words, sustainable results come not just from doing projects and taking a shotgun approach to changing the system. It comes from developing people. Compliance-based continuous improvement is essentially managing to a predefined set of standards. In this case, you got a group of people who often consider themselves experts in the field, who have developed a set of standards, and the job and the expectation is to manage the organization into compliance with those standards. A few examples are total quality management, ISO 9000 series, and also total productive maintenance, otherwise known as TPM or world-class manufacturing. The benefit of this type of approach is that it builds reliability. The con of this approach is that it encourages a fixed mindset. It pretty much sets a bar for what some group of people consider to be perfection. Often this group of people are not your customer and doesn't leave a lot of room for creativity and innovation above that bar in order to bring more value to your customer. And last but certainly not least is the iterative approach. And here's where you're making a series of small incremental improvements and learning along the way. The benefits of this type of approach is that it not only maximizes the business results, which is really what you're going for in the long run, but it also maximizes learning along the way. It exercises the scientific method, which is control for all variables except one. You make the change, you see not only what the impact is, but how much of an impact that one variable makes on the overall system. It also minimizes disruption to your business. Instead of hitting your system with a whole slug of changes at once and causing all kinds of problems and disrupting the habits and behaviors of the people, this is a process that allows people to adjust at every step of the way. It's more sustainable, it's less painful, and the results are usually better in the long run. The con is it's going to require some patience, it's going to require some persistence. If you're the kind of person that thrives on instant gratification, this is going to be a very difficult approach for you. If you're playing the long game, which Toyota and some of the best run companies are, this will be a fantastic approach for you to get the kind of results you're looking for. Okay, with all that said, now I want to talk about some of the modern approaches to continuous improvement. And the common thread I want you to see in all of this is the same thread that led to the development of the traditional systems such as Lean, Six Sigma, TQM, TOC, and some of the others. All of these are based on the scientific method and taking an iterative approach to continuous improvement. The shorter you can make those iteration cycles, the better. A few examples we'll cover here are Toyota Kata, Agile, Lean Startup, and growth hacking. Let's dive into those now. Toyota Kata is essentially practicing those improvement cycles with the help of a coach or a sensei. The term kata is a Japanese word that means practice, repetition, mastery through repetition. With Toyota Kata, you're looking to master the art of making those routine improvements. There's 5 questions in the Toyota Kata model. It's what's your target condition? Be clear on what you're trying to achieve. What's your actual condition? Let's make sure we understand what the current state is. What are your obstacles, meaning what's creating the gap between current and target condition? What's your next step, which sets the expectation that you should be trying to improve the situation? And finally, by when or when can we go see just gives a sense of urgency to make the improvement. and also gives the coach an opportunity to go out and see for themselves and understand the effectiveness of the change and whether it's working as intended and that the key learnings are being captured. The second one here is Agile, and this is a process that's used more and more frequently in software development, but it's also used in manufacturing and other operations. The idea here is to get the customer involved up front to get clarity on expectations and desired outcomes, and then organize the work into short sprints, give or take 2 weeks, in which time you're looking to make the most impact possible with the time allotted and get more frequent input from the customer or end user on direction and usefulness. The third one here is the lean startup model, which is often used by technology startups. The idea here is to be clear on who your target customer is and then get them involved at the ideation stage to make sure that what you're thinking is actually going to produce value. So you're forming a hypothesis about a product, then you're doing what's called customer discovery to get their input. Then you create what's called an MVP or minimum viable product. Then you go back to the end user or the customer, you get them to try it out. Then you take those learnings and you go through your product iteration cycles, getting feedback from the customer at every stage, and you end up with a product that's tailor fit to the needs of your market and your specific customer. The fourth one here is growth hacking. This is often used by marketers in the technology development space. And the objective here is to generate as much traffic and users and adopters in as little time as possible. This approach is a little more data driven than some of the other ones because you're really trying to draw a direct connection between what changes you're making to your process or your product or to your business and how that affects the actual behaviors, which is captured in the data, to which then you can use interviewing and talking to folks to sort of flush out the context of what you're seeing in the data. With all that said, the common thread I want you to see in not just the modern continuous improvement approaches, but also the traditional methodologies is this process of making iterative, data-driven changes and capturing key learnings at every step in the way. After each change, you capture the learnings, then you decide what to do next, all with the intent to move the company towards its overall objective with the least amount of time, money, and other resources consumed. This is the exact process that led to the creation of Lean and Six Sigma and Theory of Constraints and all of the others. To go back to the original premise of this video, what is the ultimate continuous improvement process? The answer is, it's the one you create for yourself. You do this by applying a scientific method, running a series of experiments and iterative changes to your process, capturing key learnings at every step using data and qualitative information, and then deciding what to do next based on your new learnings. This will lead you down a path to creating a continuous improvement process that's perfect for your specific needs. The best way to do this is to get into the habit of making daily improvements, and a great way to develop this powerful and life-transforming habit is by taking the Improver Challenge. In 30 days, you'll get the technology, the coach, and the community to help you along the way in your continuous improvement journey. After you succeed the challenge, you can then become certified and get paid to coach others to develop this incredible habit of daily improvement. Again, this is Calvin with Improver, encouraging you to learn, do, teach, and transform. I certainly hope you enjoyed the video. We discussed the ultimate continuous improvement process. And if so, you can find this one and more just like it at improver.com. That's IMPRUVER.com. Otherwise, feel free to like, comment, and share below. And I look forward to engaging with you further on this topic. Have a great day. Thanks.